Kia ora, hi and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Caris and me and my husband moved to New Zealand last year to start new lives together. We have experienced living in the country for about 6 months now, so I think we have a fairly good idea of some of the pros and cons of living here. We have conducted a list of 8 reasons why New Zealand might not be the country for you. So coming in at number 1, we have food and grocery prices. Now food wasn't particularly cheap in the UK, but some of the things here really blew us away with how expensive they were. As a comparison, grocery prices are 32% more expensive than they are in the UK, even though restaurant prices are a little bit cheaper here, so that's a little bit of a pro. Many goods are imported overseas here, and that does include food, which is why some of the prices can be quite high. One of the things that really shocked us were limes. $21 for a kilo of limes. That is extortionate. Normally you'd pay about 30 pence for a lime. And I think with that coming in at number 2 is just the cost of living in general. Rent and buying is very expensive over here. So in many cities you can expect to pay up to half of your income in rent alone. And as foreigners, it's incredibly difficult to be able to find somewhere to rent. You have to have references, you have to make sure that you have enough money saved to be able to pay for your rent. But obviously that is just our experience. We are in a city and some places are going to be cheaper and some are going to be more expensive. We're quite lucky that we're house sharing with someone, so we've got our room at a really good price. But overall, you'll be looking at spending a bit of money if you want to find somewhere to live here. Next, we have the weather. So again, coming from the UK, we are used to experiencing a lot of rain and miserable, dreary weather. But here it's not quite like that. You can get sunburn and have a downpour all in the same day. So it's hard for us to gauge whether or not we want to put our washing out on the line. Is it going to get soaked in a few hours? So yeah, the weather is very unpredictable. So for that, we can just say, bring sun cream with you wherever you go. Make sure you've got layers, make sure you've got raincoats hidden away. We have the little pocket raincoats that you can compact in a small bag and take out with you. Because we could be on a hike and it could be 30 degrees and then next minute there's just a downpour of rain. And then you'll get sunburnt again half an hour after that. So yeah, the weather here is a bit wild. And coming in at number 5, we have the boundary location. Now this might seem like a bit of an odd one to throw in here, but for many people, earthquakes can be really scary. New Zealand sits on a boundary between 2 main tectonic plates that rub against each other all the time, so the country experiences earthquakes. Sometimes you don't even feel them. I get notifications on my phone that says there was a 4.7 earthquake in your area last night, and you had no idea that it happened. But one thing to remember is there is a huge variation in the amount and the severity of earthquakes throughout the country. So don't let it scare you, don't live in fear about it, but obviously it is something worth knowing if you didn't know. All in all, there's about 14,000 earthquakes in a year, so it's just worth noting. And at number 6, I have a little bit of a controversial one. It might start a war in the comments. New Zealand doesn't have good cheese. I know, sorry. We've searched high and low for really good quality cheese. Living in Christchurch, they do have the food market, so we have come across the Charing Cross Cheesery, but it seems like it's a specialist item. Normally, you could just get any good cheese in a supermarket, but it all seems quite mild in comparison out here. But please comment below if you know of any good places where I can get some decent cheese from, because I'm sure it exists out here, I just haven't come across it yet. And coming in at number 7, we have how isolated you are from the rest of the world. Now for a lot of people, that's probably a good thing, but for others, maybe not so much. If you're making the move here and you've come from Europe, for instance, you're looking at about 24 hours to be able to jet off to go home. So if you're quite a family-orientated person, then you might find that quite difficult. The closest place that you can travel here is to Australia, and the closest side to where we are now is about 3.5 hours. And of course you could visit Fiji and the Cook Islands, but generally you're quite limited in where you can go. You can't just hop on a plane and jet off somewhere and expect to get there quite quickly. which, you know, would seem obvious to some, but I think a lot of people don't realise how isolated you really are here. Another thing to consider as well is there are 5 million people in the whole of New Zealand, and there's more than that in London alone. So if you're after a bustling lifestyle with lots of nightlife and events, of course you can get that in places like Auckland and Wellington, but it's just not the pace of life that they have out here. And lastly, at number 8, we have the transportation system. If you're used to relying on public transport to get to places and you don't drive, then you may find the transition here quite difficult. In places like Wellington and Christchurch, where we currently are, the transportation networks are generally pretty good. We've got trams, we've got trains, and we've got buses. But a lot of cities and other places aren't that well connected. So if you live outside of a major city, you might find it quite difficult to get around. We personally haven't had a problem because we are in Christchurch, but when we've been travelling around in our car and have gone to remote places, there really isn't a way of getting around unless you do drive. So that's quite an obstacle for some people. So there you have it. They are the 8 reasons why New Zealand may not be the country for you. Now obviously there are heaps more reasons why New Zealand probably is the country for you, but we will do that in another video. So do you agree with the list? Do you have anything to add? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching and supporting our channel, and we will see you soon. Bye!